What's going on, fellow A Plusers? It's your host, Adam Perez, back once again with a brand new video for you guys today. Finally getting back to our live viewer questions from this past Sunday, guys. I really do apologize for it taking so long for me to get in front of this camera and record this for you guys. So I certainly do apologize. I wind up having my family still in town for my son's birthday. They did not leave until, was it Wednesday, I believe they went back to Georgia after just an amazing week with them. Honestly, it was just very memorable. I took so many pictures. I just had a fantastic time seeing my entire family around my baby boy. And then, unfortunately, I wind up having to go back to the office to actually work. So I haven't been working remotely. So I haven't just been able to just dive right into a quick video for you guys type of thing. So I do apologize about that, that I haven't been around so much this week. So I'm getting to these late, but the important thing is I'm getting to them. I hope that certainly matters. So definitely going to go ahead and drop this for you guys. And then, of course, once this video drops, expect Saturday evening, the post for live viewer questions to certainly go up for you guys. And then you can go ahead and submit your questions over if you'd like to. So thank you very much for that, guys. And again, for those of you who are new to the channel or are curious about submitting live viewer questions or certainly would like to know how to do so, feel free to go ahead and again go over to our main YouTube page, and then if you just go over to the community tab right here, once I go ahead and post, I usually post the live viewer question post either on Wednesday or any day after that, and then once that brand new live viewer post drops, feel free to go ahead and submit your questions over. It's actually pretty simple for the most part. Some people have had issues in the past, but I'm hoping that it's been taken care of. But let's see here. Let's go ahead and finally get to Blossom. Blossom, I certainly do apologize. I thought it was very rude of me. I do apologize for doing that to you. And then on top of that, to make you wait so freaking long. So I really do apologize, Blossom. You are an amazing part of this family here at A+. Just so you know, we truly do appreciate you. So thank you very much for your patience with me also. So finally getting to your question here. Did you see Dino Fury yet? Not spoiling it, but which Ranger moment from theirs is the most badass? Sorry to swear. Personally, I'd say moments from both my favorite Pink Ranger and the most sexy Black Ranger since Adam. So unfortunately, I have not seen Dino Fury yet, guys, and I know you're probably all yelling at me right now, and I definitely deserve it. But life has been really crazy, unfortunately. I sat down to watch episode 13. That's right, 13. I was actually really fascinated in it because it's Ollie, it's Amelia. Love things are certainly going on there, and I'm interested. Lord Zed certainly even returned, which I thought was really cool to kind of see. But he kind of just returned like nonchalantly, like, "Hey, it's me, Lord Zed's back," and he's got the staff and he's got all this other stuff, and I'm like, is anybody going to explain anything that might have happened? And maybe that certainly comes later in the episode, but it wind up cutting things off for me. I wind up having to take care of either the baby or something came up, had to take care of something around the house sort of thing, and just unfortunately did not get the opportunity to finish that episode. So I definitely have a lot to certainly dive into. So I have not seen it yet, but I am certainly trying, I promise. As far as most badass moment, for me, probably the finale so far, I think that we got for season 1 was pretty incredible, if you ask me, especially the civilian fight, the idea of really seeing our Rangers with their weaponry take on the bad guys, right? And like take on the head honcho, like just, having to really not just the henchman sort of thing, you know what I mean, going toe to toe, and that type of stuff was really incredible, especially with the stunt and wire work that they wind up putting together. I mean, everybody really came together, big giant set pieces and stuff, great storyline diving into it also, right? It was just a really great culmination moment for season 1, and getting an opportunity to see the actors themselves truly shine, along with just showing all originality, right? And so I think the idea of the originality just shows the true appreciation for the cast and the crew, the people behind the scenes of putting that season one finale together. So that was probably the most badass moment for me so far when it comes to Dino Fury. And you also say of all the common writers in the past 50 years, which morpher of them would you take? You said you choose the Saber Sword Driver books and swords because books and swords are two of your favorites. Yeah, absolutely. So like for me, 01 probably comes to mind really quickly, just because I think like for me, that's when I kind of my eyes opened a little bit more to common writer, and I've kind of paid attention to that world. Like I've tried to dive into it prior, and it just didn't click for me, unfortunately. But like now I find myself kind of drawn to something like Ultraman. Ultraman's kind of drawn me, and I wind up watching the previous season last year. Haven't had the time to really sit down and watch Ultraman Decker as of yet, but I definitely want to. So Kamen Rider for me is still kind of new to me. So the 01 was probably my favorite. And then the close second certainly would be Sabers. I'm a sucker for swords. I'm a sucker for dragons and fantasy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a perfect blend of all of everything in there. And it was a pretty sweet ass design, honestly, if you ask me. Also, so those are probably two of my favorites. Let's see here, and then I think we went all the way up to Chris Crossman. And okay, let's just check out Michael Rhymes here. Second opinion from my last live questions from last week. We all talked about how Dino Supercharged kept mishandling the extra Rangers, where they kept leaving due to Japanese footage. The Rangers randomly showing different character traits, personalities when the Rangers fight because of Sentai footage. The more I watch the series, the more I see them used when most necessary. It does give more breathing room considering that we already had main 7 Rangers. I do wish we saw more of the extra Rangers outside of costume by having the Energems or Dino Charge non-functional or damaged. So when it comes to Cosmic Fury, I'm really excited. Everything will be new original footage except for the Megazord fights. Longer having to worry about editing around, no longer having to worry about editing around Sentai footage with the Rangers themselves. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you there, Michael. I think you certainly make a good point there. But yeah, I think the idea of the new original footage will help dramatically. And I think I do wonder how bold they'll go with it. How far they'll certainly push with it if they make some presented to us maybe a little bit differently. Especially with such little episodes to certainly work with, right? Like maybe you can get a little bit more dynamic with your shots or present it a certain type of way. But who knows? I mean, it is an additional season to Power Rangers, so maybe you can kind of expect the same formula that we've gotten from Dino Fury. But listen, it's Simon Bennett, and I think he's a man who is always looking to improve upon something. And so I do think the idea of him getting an additional shot to go ahead and put together this season, I think if anything, he'll look at things that he would certainly like to change and maybe the freedom that's now been given to him. And he'll maybe take some of those chances and continue with his firsts that he's been very much known for so far when his attachment to Power Rangers. So I'm really excited, just like you are, when it comes to that. And again, the number of Rangers, don't really know the amount that we're totally going to get as of right now. But it'll be interesting to see who the cast is that everything is made up of if we do get additional Rangers on top of that as well. So yeah, thank you for that, Michael. Let's see, Jericho Gonzalez. Bulk should have been the mentor for Samurai Rangers and actually interact with them. Bulk had the desire to learn back in Angel Grove. I think his character arc and maturing would have better served a role of becoming a martial arts instructor, maybe making him knowledgeable in the Ranger lore that he was more or less a part of a party to. Those falls and flips he pulled off were actually pretty impressive in retrospect. It could help make that season a little more original instead of copying the entirety of Shinkenger. Though get rid of Jaden, a white guy, with someone who's actually Japanese. Lastly, Bulk would also offer words of wisdom to Samurai Rangers that he learned from watching the original MMPR team and in space in action. These little things would be great references to PR. Yeah, listen. When you said the idea of Bulk should have been the mentor for Samurai, I was like, "What?" And then as you explain it to me, that's actually a really cool character arc for Bulk, especially considering wasn't he in the fight also at the end of In Space, or I believe they were part of the fight at the end of In Space and the big battles as well. So you're right with that kind of experience and the fact that yeah he kind of a little bit wanted to become a martial arts instructor. That would have been pretty awesome if it kind of came full circle. If Saban and them wanted to be a little bit more original. But yeah, I feel like anything really Shinkenger related is very sort of copy and paste. You know what I mean? Really almost following their scripts to a T and the same like shots, selections, and stuff. Like it was really weird for me at times to certainly watch it. So, but yeah, I dig the idea. I really do. As for Mentor G, you can keep him around as a more traditional Japanese mentor, someone who can teach the Rangers samurai lessons. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure you definitely could if you certainly wanted to. But the idea of the originality, I think, of Bulk, especially if you're going to utilize him in the series, you know. But that certainly wasn't the mentality of Saban, unfortunately, at the time. I think it was just the idea of like, let's just get this money machine rolling again. You know what I mean? Let's see here. Carlo Bernardo. Cue the music. Time for Time Force. In Power Rangers Time Force, if Jen actually stayed with West in 2001 before coming back to 2002 for a Wild Force team up, wouldn't that mean that she fell in love with the original Alex's great grand something? Yes. Yes. Yes, that's exactly what that means. My headcanon is Alex is a descendant cousin of West. Or at least that's how I always kind of saw it. Since West died in an alternate timeline and Alex was still around in the year 3000, West died because Alex was a huge top for his team Back to the Future, leaving West to fight 100 plus Cyclobots. Alex basically caused a paradox when forcing Time Force Rangers to return to the future, made West die. This would even apply with Eric as well, because in the finale of Time Force, Eric took a blast with a nearby surviving Cyclobot, tried to kill Wes and his father. So yeah, Alex basically got Wes and Eric killed in the alternate timeline when he took the four Time Force Rangers back to the future. I always thought this was kind of similar to the Terminator films with Kyle Reese being John Connor's father, which was somewhat weird. So if that's the case, and Jen was with Alex, who was the first Red Ranger who she was engaged to? Was she getting ready to marry her great grandson? I mean, I think so, bro. Like that's how I've always kind of viewed it. I mean, if you, I think maybe I have to dig deeper. Maybe I have to rewatch the season again. But I mean, homeboy looks exactly like you, man. Right? Like that's got to be part of your lineage at some point. Like your daddy's daddy's daddy. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, yeah. Maybe I'm doing the math wrong in my head, Carlo, but I think you might be right. Carter Matthews. With the excitement of the Stargirl ending after 3 seasons, what do you think of Jeff Johns' social media post saying that when he first wrote and produced Stargirl, he had already planned on making it a trilogy and that the show will have a proper ending as planned, which is very important since both Legends of Tomorrow and Batwoman did not get endings, only left with cliffhanger. My main question is, do you think the series finale will bring more connected tissues to the entire Arrowverse as a whole, leaving only the Flash series as a true last connection of the Arrowverse? God, I guess that would, right? Because that will immediately sort of cancel that. And we've had the we've had the Flash, Jake Garrick, over with the crossover already for Stargirl. So yeah, I definitely considered Stargirl part of the Arrowverse. So yeah, now will officially end, and the Flash begins what this 2023, right? So yeah, that would be pretty. That's pretty crazy. That the Flash will be truly the last connection to the Arrowverse. Um, I don't necessarily know if it'll have connective tissues to the entire Arrowverse as a whole. I think for the most part, I don't think Stargirl's. Look, I haven't really watched seasons 2 and 3, right? So, from somebody who just literally watched season 1 and just hearing things from Stewart, like a part of me thinks that it's for the most part, it hasn't really gotten too multiversal messy to have to maybe even address anything but its own sort of main storylines. You know what I mean? Um, and listen, I think if Jeff Johns decided he only planned it as a trilogy, I would kind of believe him. One, I don't know if he saw like the future, what the future was certainly going to hold for the CW and all the crazy changes. Because didn't Stargirl was Stargirl on like the DC Universe app? Do you guys remember that thing? That was like a brief thing. We had Swamp Thing on there and stuff. I think wasn't Stargirl supposed to be a DC Universe? Like, was it a simulcast of DC Universe and the CW? I can't even remember. So I don't know if Jeff Johns is that forward thinking. But I mean, who knows? Maybe he certainly is. And so, if anything, I think it's a really smart idea. I think had the CW continued, I definitely do think that he would have gotten a season 4 request, and he probably would have had to extend the series out a little bit more, right? So he might have certainly had a plan for 3, and it might have just been that convenient and just fell in his lap like that. Like, hey, season 3 is going to be your end. But I do think that if the CW had stayed the same and they said, hey, this show is great, we need a 4th season. He would certainly might change the ending of of season 3, certainly knowing that, you know what I mean. So who knows, maybe he wrote himself into the perfect corner, and it just all came together. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. um it's a bummer, though. I will say that it certainly is a bummer. Power Rangers Legacy. What are your thoughts on the Power Rangers Clash of the Red Rangers movie? I revised this many times to make it not so long. The entire crossover itself, for some reason, took place in the middle of RPM instead of after the finale. After the cliffhanger of Vengeance getting trapped inside of Scott's morpher, it was odd. Scott was only piloting the team's Megazord in the opening scene. I did that was odd. I was like, why is he's the only person doing this? He was outside of his Megazord. It was weird. Um and this is opening scene. The main villain of the team up, named Professor Kong, already being around was really random. Scott was completely out of character. Instead, he was more like his Japanese counterpart, Sasuke, by acting over the top, cocky, and being a ladies' man out of nowhere. I did smile a lot when the girl Samurai Rangers were. Oh, how did you? Oh, thank you. Um, Oh, okay, there we go. I did smile a lot when when the girl Samurai Rangers, trying to get to yeah, they certainly were, man. Although it was mainly due to Ika Darvo's restrictions in appearing in the crossover due to already being in the Union. Scott claimed he couldn't demorph due to his inability to breathe the air in the main PR world, which contradicted several instances in Power Rangers RPM where he was seen breathing just fine outside of Corinth City in the series finale. Yeah, so listen, I am very aware of the movie, but I will say it definitely was out of character. It was I. Well, I will say this. Look, and I kind of mentioned it in one of the previous questions we kind of just talked about. I feel like anytime that it comes to like Power Rangers Samurai, there might be like an overuse of something Super Sentai related. And there is a part of me that wonders, um, how much of the actual, because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they use footage from two different um, Super Sentai movies for this particular one. Um, and so I do feel like that's their overusage once again of Super Sentai footage where the Sentai counterpart may not necessarily match the American counterpart, you know what I mean, that we're used to. And when you don't have Ika Darville to certainly be there, then you're now forced to sort of portray the character like the overusage of the Super Sentai footage that you're using when he can't demorph on screen, right? He's got to keep up sort of that same attitude so that when you do cut to your overusage of Super Sentai footage, I believe then you're probably now stuck with having, that as your main character. So, um, that's kind of how I think might have happened. Again, I don't know any behind the scenes information. I don't know if any of the producers or anybody, editors, the writers, showrunners at the time talked about that. But with Ika Darville not being able to actually be there and then forced to actually them have to have a Red Ranger represented, like I don't necessarily know if that was the main storyline that the Super Sentai movie utilized, but if it wasn't, and they were forced to just use the Red Ranger's character, then you technically almost have to make sure that he does align with the overusage of Super Sentai Red footage that you wind up using, if that makes sense. And then, so that might be for the over exaggeration of the character, the over the top sort of thing. And then maybe some of the script also. Maybe his personality might have changed or it had to be overutilized, or maybe whatever script that they had for the films that they were utilizing, maybe there was a heavy dosage of that script, and you got Ika Darville literally reading the script of the movie for all I know, so you've got personality traits of the Japanese character really bleeding into the Scott's character. So that's the only thing I can honestly think of. But I did notice what you certainly meant there. And also Professor Cog, I actually always was a big fan of his the costume design, and for that it always made him an interesting character for me also. But yeah, it was a pretty good one. Let's see here. Adam Pereira, if you had your own Master Morpher, what six Rangers are you choosing as your power sets? Mine are Dino Fury Red, Lightspeed Rescue Titanium, Ninja Storm Green Samurai, Dino Thunder Blue, Dino Fury Gold, and Time Force Green. Very nice, man. Very nice selection there. God. I definitely need an MMPR in there, but I'm actually going to go MMPR Black here. I'll go MMPR Black here. Give me that Mastodon for sure, because Zach made it cool. Adam might have even made it cooler. And then on top of that, so Mastodon Black has such a great legacy. Give me that one. And he even wore the dragon shield at some point. Yes, give me all day, all day. I'm pretty sure I think that's probably one of the reasons, not because of the shield, but I believe growing up as a kid, man, I always loved that Mastodon helmet. That Mastodon helmet was just freaking fantastic, bro. But yeah, so definitely MMPR Black. Give me Zeo Gold. I'm gonna take Samurai Red. I'll take a Wild Force Red. I need two more. Quantum Ranger. and probably give me Beast Morpher Gold. Give me Nate. Yeah, yeah, I'll do that. Let's see here. Nicole Robertson. Hey, y'all. Hope you're doing well. Do you wish we had MMPR's movie suits in their TV series? Those suits were really cool looking, and they would have been awesome as a metallic armors or power up modes instead of having basically glitter. If we had those suits in the TV franchise instead of only just the movie, this could have allowed Rocky to actually be in Forever Red alongside Jason if Steve Cardenas was available. The movie suits themselves even had a really unique features in the helmets, like Rocky's night vision scanners and Aisha's flashlights. I always dug the flashlights actually, as well as weapons that Kimberly and Billy used, like the pterodactyl thunder whip and the Stega stinger. So much potential if the movie suits were allowed to be in the TV series, even the 30th anniversary special coming next year. It would be amazing to see Adam, Rocky, and Aisha in the movie suits. Yeah, and I don't know when the next time the movie itself has an anniversary, but it would be really cool if on the next anniversary for we're celebrating at least of that MMPR movie itself. It'd be cool if Hasbro like literally reached out to Johnny, Steve Cardenas, and Karen to do maybe like some marketing or like promotional work to go ahead and promote the film. I think that would actually be really, really cool for them to do that. Yeah, look, I think as a kid for myself, after seeing them in the movie and then going back to MMPR the next season, as a kid, I was disappointed. I remember me being disappointed. Um, like I'm glad that they kept like the ninjetti suits and stuff, but outside of that, I got crows. I got crows. Nah, I'm good. I would have really liked the. They almost disappointed me, man. They really disappointed me, because they were so badass. Like you spoiled me. And as a kid, I didn't really understand the idea of like budget and they've got this much more money to really use. I mean, maybe I did, but it was just kind of like, man, that kind of sucks. Like I wonder why they didn't do that. Like just a really big missed opportunity. But I always thought they looked great. I still think they hold up extremely well to this day. And I think because of also the extra and new success accessories that the movie costumes wind up bringing to weapons for the Power Ranger lore and stuff, and just Power Ranger history, just these new weapons. I thought that was actually really great additions, if you ask me. But look, it was simple, upgraded. I don't know how much if they were a pain in the ass for the cast to certainly wear with the extra padding, but they look pretty tight, but they also look badass at the same time. So I think they even hold up better than the costumes that we got. And then, look, no disrespect to the 2017 film, I thought I enjoyed the look of them, but I can understand people's displeasure. But man, I look back at the '95 movie, and it's just like, man, those suits were perfect. Those suits were perfect. It's going to be hard to see if they could ever replicate it, but you never know. You never know. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe they replicated for the 30th anniversary. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? Um, Francois, we mentioned this before about the Lightspeed Rescue and Lost Galaxy team up. Trakina's Revenge three-parter is one of the huge and worst examples of why adapting Sentai footage in a crossover can really mess up a team if the producers and writers don't want to make it all new and original. The entire crossover focused too much on a little kid as a plot point and using heavy Sentai footage. We just talked about this, right? It's the copy paste of Power Rangers over the years. We just talked about this. Was Clash of the Red Ranger. Trakina as a character was completely pointless from turning into a generic monster at the end. We didn't even get to see Ryan and Mike as Titanium Ranger and Magnum Defender. So Bull Black, aka Magna Defender, was cut out of the Sentai footage. The very last time we had Sentai team up or movie was the Beast Morphers crossover with MMPR, Dino Thunder, Dino Charge. Though at least we have Ivan along with Nate and Steel as the sixth, seventh Rangers. Cherry on top. Amy Miller did not even reprise her role as Trakina due to a little girl having too much screen time and using Sentai footage for Trakina mutating into a generic monster. Oh my goodness. Yeah, see, that's definitely much worse than even Clash of the Red Ranger. But thinking about Clash of the Red Ranger, when I think about it, like, don't get me wrong, like there's definitely a lot of original footage in there, I believe, at least in the sense of like with the cast, you know what I mean? Very heavy usage of the cast, and Jaden speaking with sort of the Red Ranger. But it does make me wonder if like some of those same scenes were to be used from the Sentai footage, but then just filmed again in, like they did the series, just sort of refilming those same exact scenes. You know what I mean? Again, I haven't checked out any of these movies outside of what outside of what I've seen, but so I don't know. I don't know how, but again, that's just Power Rangers, man. That's just how Power Rangers has always been, and it feels like maybe the past couple of years has kind of opened the door, or really brought that to more people's attention of just how heavy-handed some of the stuff certainly was. And I think it's probably just it's I think it just showcases itself more when it's the movies. You know what I mean? Just because I don't think that they want to spend an overabundance of money actually filming a lot of original footage for that when you can look, they're already creating the movie itself. Let's just sprinkle in some scenes here or there, but for the most part, really depend on the Sentai footage to kind of carry us. You know what I mean? So I think it's probably more visible, at least in some of the team ups. Let's see here. Alexander Rosario, tell me your Power Ranger stories. When did you get into it? What started it? Why do you like it? When did you get into it? Probably when I saw my first promotional ad for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as a kid. The logo design was pretty cool. I love seeing the freaking lightning bolt come in and stuff. I was just a really big fan of the show. Look, it hit me at like the perfect time. I was like maybe 12, going on 13, perhaps, maybe 11, going on 12. So like I feel like I was at that like great age as a kid, curiosity and like martial arts and really getting into comic books and superheroes and stuff. And so, I'd never really seen anything like that. The idea of like, at least not on television, live action wise, the idea of like five kids, teenagers turning into a superhero team and they got these big ass, machines that they're kicking these big old monsters ass and stuff. I mean, it was like pure mayhem, and martial arts, and yeah, it was like a drug, man. It was just so good. It just got me at a really great age when I was just really fascinated in a lot of that stuff. Um, why do I like it? Um, Look, I love superheroes just in general. I dig the idea of superhero teams out there just trying to save the day. Cooler power set, the better type of thing. I dig the idea and concept. Like I also will give influence and appreciation to Voltron to getting me into Power Rangers also. When I saw Power Rangers, I think that's the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, live action Voltron? Oh my God. Like, I always wanted to be Keith from Voltron. Like, dude, one day I'm gonna have you a freaking mechanical robot I can ride around in space in. Like, I love me some Voltron. I literally was like, I used to hate my name Adam, and I used to be like, man, I'm gonna change my name to Keith one day. I'm gonna change my name to Keith. I'm glad that never never stuck. But I was always a Voltron fan growing up as a kid, and so that definitely gave me influence to have at least seen something like that. But man, as a kid my age, you give that to me in live action form, and I'm like, what? People are making stuff like this? Like I'd never seen anything like it. It blew my mind. It blew my mind as a kid. But I like it because of the fact that one, I'm amazed that it's been around so long as it certainly has. I'm always a really big fan of the messages that it certainly did, that it wind up expressing. I don't want to say I took them for granted as a kid. I do think that like growing up, you know, I don't necessarily know if I look, I wasn't like, oh, this is another lesson of the day episode. That's only because I've become more cynical as I've gotten older, But like growing up and watching it, that was never on my mind. It was actually enjoying the episodes themselves. It was just a completely different time back then. But what I love about it though is that it's still pushing those messages. And even though we look at it through a particular lens, it is important to put those messages forward because unfortunately we're living in a really crazy world, and the more people that can teach people how to behave in society, how to accept people for who they are, how to love and care and protect for people, and give you life lessons on how to be just a good person and live amongst other people. I think stuff like that is extremely, extremely important. And so, again, while we sit back and we judge it because we're a little bit older, I still think the message definitely rings true. And Power Rangers is a really great outlet for something like that to be able to be reached globally for a lot of people. And so that to me is like the heart and soul of Power Rangers. And then on top of that, I get the kick ass martial arts along with sort of the kick ass, just balls to the walls robot on monster action. And it works for me that way. So yeah. You say, as for myself, I'm not sure where I started, but I have been a fan of Power Rangers since my childhood, along with Dragon Ball Z and Beyblade. One of my most interesting experiences is this. I've always been a story maker. I would picture and daydream up many stories in my head, usually about whatever I would watch. One of the prime things, of course, was Power Rangers, wasn't it? I would imagine myself doing all those cool battles and fighting alongside with Power Rangers. And, it's funny you say that because for me, it got me into karate. And like, I literally wanted to join karate because of Power Rangers. And unfortunately, I stopped at like my yellow belt, like the second level that you're at. I might not even made it to level belt to the yellow belt. I might have got like a stripe. Like, I might have been like white belt and a yellow stripe for all I know. But I didn't stick with it, unfortunately. But it made me go out and try something. And I think that's always a great thing. You say I was in fifth grade by that point, 9 or 10 years old, and I would imagine all these things during recess and lunch. Now, me and my beautiful child mind did not understand I had complete control over these fictional daydreams. And when something went wrong, like we lost a battle, etc., I would get very upset. I would go back into the classroom all weepy-eyed and sad, and my teacher was rightfully very concerned. She talked to my parents about it, and I can't remember much of the details, but I wasn't allowed from watching Power Rangers until I was in high school. Well, listen, man, sometimes kids' imagination is certainly extremely powerful, especially at a young age of 5 years old, also, man. But, I'm definitely hoping everything's that you're certainly doing all right now, and clearly still enjoying Power Rangers, Alexander. So, thank you for that. Let's see here. We got Morgan Hutchinson. What did you think of Natalie Portman's return in Love and Thunder as a Mighty Thor, her introduction and exit, and now her character was given justice that some fans been asking for a while? And would you like to see her return in future MCU projects, even if she was a multiversal variant as Mighty Thor or just human Jane Foster? It's a good question, Morgan. I've been asking myself that very question after I've watched it. I've seen it twice now, and I still enjoy it each and every time that I definitely watch it. And I really enjoyed the chemistry and the collab between Natalie Portman and Chris Hemsworth. For me, I really enjoyed seeing them on screen together. Just the awkwardness of those two and navigating the idea of bumping into your ex and having to deal with all that drama. Like for me, that was actually pretty entertaining to certainly watch. And I thought Natalie Portman was fantastic. And look, one of the things that we've always said is, it's never like we've never tried to disrespect Natalie Portman about her performance and about her act or like her acting chops, right? Like we know Natalie Portman is a fantastic actress, but the Jane Foster character just did not do any justice for her, and it just didn't seem like she was even that invested certainly in that particular role. Maybe because it just wasn't a very meaty role or much to do. Who knows? I really don't know at the end of the day. But I definitely do think that Jane Foster certainly could have been handled better, both performance and storyline wise. But the idea of Natalie Portman returning, she's a great actress. But at the same time, it's just like, man, you got to make me want to feel for the Jane character. And I thought they did a really great job in regards to that. And the fact that they allowed Natalie Portman, I feel like, to even up the notch a little bit more in her personality when it comes to Jane Foster, I thought worked extremely well for the movie. So I really enjoyed her in it. And as far as wanting to see her in the future, listen, I personally would love to see her come back. I don't think Chris Hemsworth is going anywhere anytime soon. So then you gotta kind of ask her the question of, how do you pull this off? Is she gonna join him for another Thor adventure in the next one if she finds a way to come back? I do think that you should bring her back. I wouldn't mind a Mighty Thor, say Disney Plus series if they wanted to kind of go that route, but um yeah, I think maybe you might want to go that route. I don't know. I can't remember how well Thor: Love and Thunder did in the box office. I certainly might have to do some research in regards to that. But or maybe it's worth Mighty Thor is worthy of its own. If Chris Hemsworth ever wanted to go ahead and take like a 5-year break from being invested in that type of stuff. But you're right. You also got the multiverse that we certainly got to come back. We got Secret Wars certainly coming up. So you never know, I guess, who might be involved in something like that. So I hope they take advantage of it, because the idea of it being a one-off was a bit of a bummer to me. You know what I mean? I think that definitely left me with some sadness, because I would like to see Natalie Portman as this Jane Foster in this world, as her. And I do think maybe via the comics they could certainly make that happen. Also, if I'm not mistaken, does Jane Foster come back in the comic books? I remember the whole Valhalla issue. I just can't, and I feel like I've seen the Mighty Thor pop up before, but I'm wondering, is that a new Mighty Thor under that, or is that still Natalie Portman, or is that still Jane Foster? Let me know in the comment section box below. Jackson Peterson, after revisiting Dino crossover from Beast Morphers, I found the main Rangers really useless thanks to Sentai footage of all 3 Dino teams. In the actual Sentai team up, the Go Busters were the old team, so they came in late, whereas Beast Morphers was the new team. Yeah, I realized that too. What I really wished was better was have the main 3 Rangers across Dino Thunder Morpher. I'm sorry. Current Rangers access the Dino Thunder Morphers, since Grid Battle Force has access to old Ranger weapons, Morphers, and just re-energize them with Morph X. Having them morph into 3 Dino Thunder Rangers would have been really cool to see. This would allow Sentai footage to still be used with new original shots using legacy weapons. Then, after the actual fight with the Dino teams, the main three go back and help Nate and Steel battle Roboblades and Evox, not having actual Dino Thundercast, or at least Ethan's actor, who was always wanting to return to Power Rangers, was a huge insult to Dino Fury fans and Sentai. Ethan's actor showed up in person with the Red Ranger. Yeah, man, that's I mean, I feel like we knew for a while going into that crossover that was going to be a difficult situation. Of the idea of them adapting that movie, and yet knowing that they weren't able to get back any of the actors for Dino Thunder, you know. So I think it was always a big question as to like how they're going to work around this footage and make that time kind of that stuff kind of work. So, but I'm with you. I'm with you there, Jackson. Let's see here, Stuart. This is a dumb question. Sorry for asking. Why is it that when it comes to Power Rangers, since Dino Fury season one, part two became available straight to Netflix, and then season two? Why is it that when it comes to Power Rangers, since Dino Fury season one, part two became available straight to Netflix, and then season two, it takes a while for Simon Bennett and his team to get post production completed? But when it comes to past and legacy seasons of Power Rangers, when they are still airing on regular TV, they can do everything on set. This even applies to the Hourverse shows during everything on set. But when it comes to past and legacy seasons of Power Rangers, when they were still airing, they can do everything on set. I mean, there's still more ideas of like post production that needs to be done. Like, yeah, I don't think you can do all of post production on set. Um, yeah, like music soundtrack and stuff. Like, I would be amazed if they did all of that on just their one set as they were filming. Like, if that's what you're referring to in regards to like why it takes Simon Bennett and them so long for post production, because it sounds like when you says when it comes to the past seasons of Power Rangers, when they were still airing on regular TV, they can do everything on set. This even applies to the CW Hourverse shows. Um, well, okay. Well, I will say this. Okay. Well, when you're talking about past and legacy seasons of Power Rangers, a lot of that stuff when it aired on regular television had a completely different, like, just scheduling system for how they film their stuff. It's done completely differently now. Like, at least legacy seasons in the sense, or even I don't even know how the Disney ones were run, but I mean they would work these kids ragged. You know what I mean? Like hours and hours on day. Um, Now things are so they would probably knock out a bunch of episodes, right? That's probably why we even got more episodes um, in the first couple seasons of MMPR. Um, and so they was just pumping out episode after episode after episode. So it's like no delay, just feeding you and feeding you. Open your mouth, just take more Power Rangers, take more Power Rangers, um, type of thing, or at least that's what it felt like. um, so yeah, so yeah, it's just different now. Like now they just space it out more. Um, and take their time, and you've got more things that you're adding to the shows now, more special effects, more graphics, more ADR work, more musical composition that's going along with it as well. So there's a lot more that definitely goes into it that you can't really do while you're on set. And again, how it was maybe done in the past, you film and just work through so many that before you know it, you're working like 40 episodes, maybe like 20, 30 episodes ahead of what's airing on television, sort of thing, right? So you got a nice little buffer there for yourself, is how I would assume that's what makes it different from even like the CW Arrowverse. I don't think they can do everything on set. Like I don't think you can put together a whole television show on set as you're filming, right? Like you can definitely take pieces of it, um, but at some point in time, those pieces that are being gathered on the set have to be put together. And you know, I think they probably do that during different times, or maybe they've got people that are literally doing that while they're also filming, you know, for next week's episode or something like that. You know, like they'll be filming and then a couple rows down, maybe getting some of the post production work on other things. But this stuff is very special effects heavy as well, so that probably adds a lot into it also. Time, you know. Tough question, but what are some of the things you dislike or find meh about the first Terminator movie or the second one? If you can't answer this, what are some very underrated or overrated movies you really enjoy and cannot stand? Um, oh, God, no, that one's gonna get me in. Nah, I won't say it. I won't say it. What are some things you dislike or find meh about the first Terminator movie? You know, I'm trying to remember if I even watched the first Terminator movie before watching the second one. Like, I wonder if I think my introduction to the Terminator franchise was Terminator 2. I think I might have seen that in theaters. I honestly can't remember. I honestly can't remember. I might have seen the first Terminator once as a child. You know what I mean? When I was a kid, and maybe that's what made me interested in going to see the second one. But honestly, I couldn't remember. Um, I wish it was more action like the second one, right? Like if there was anything mad about the first Terminator movie, maybe more action. But other than that, I thought it was a great movie for what it certainly was. Was that anything mad about the second one? No, that movie's near perfect. I'm not kidding. That movie's near perfect for me. Yeah. And Roberto, would you agree or disagree? Lost Galaxy, a dark plus mature season, became darker after Kendricks died. Suicide bombings done by the foot soldiers in the finale destroyed entire adventure. Yeah, I'm still amazed that made it into the episode. Um, we already had Mike killed in the second episode. Yes, he came back later, but that's no different than Kendricks. Thankfully, Valverde recovered beautifully. They mourned Mike and was presumed dead for quite a while. The whole Magna Defender kid killed in front of him was one of the darkest things the show's ever did. We also had the intense scene with the return of Corone, and when Corone faced off with Drakina on the edge of a cliff, luckily Kendrick's spirit saved her and gave her the Pink Ranger powers. Years later, the Galaxy Rangers returned for Speed team up and eventually fell off a skyscraper. This day and age, seeing people falling from a building is very graphic due to 9/11. Wasn't that done? What year was Lost Galaxy? 1999. Okay. Okay. Um. Yeah, man. Like I said, this really hits close to home. You know what I mean? For sure. But no, I definitely always felt like watching Lost Galaxy always did feel like it had a dreariness about it. Is that a thing? You know, not like I don't mean that in a bad way, but I don't know. It definitely always had like this heavy aura about it. When I always watched it, and I guess maybe that's why maybe I didn't gravitate towards it as much as others. Like I thought it had great moments, but um, yeah, man. Um, Lost Galaxy hits differently for me, but when I watch it, yeah, that's kind of the feeling I had. I mean, it definitely was a dark and mature season, but there was a heaviness and a dreariness to it. I felt like maybe I'm tripping though. Let me know what you guys think. But all right, guys, I think that wraps it up for all of our live viewer questions. So thank you very much, guys, for certainly joining me. A lot more questions than I certainly anticipated, man. So I do apologize that we didn't get to more during the live episode. I'll certainly try and be better about certainly be better about that for you guys. But yeah, man, that's gonna definitely do it for us here. So thank you guys so much for certainly coming through once again. We will be live this upcoming Sunday at 11 a.m. Central Time for a new episode of A Plus Hero Report. So certainly go ahead and join us then. And definitely expect a live viewer question post on the community tab later on this evening, guys. So definitely go ahead and look forward to that. But in the meantime, do me a big favor as always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A plus. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.